The Burns staff were critical to make this course work and work successfully. So staff from the Burns Library were able to assemble primary sources for the students to dig through. The course is called Propaganda in the Great War, and what we were interested in doing is looking at how the war was marketed by governments around the world. So we found propaganda posters from the United States, from the United Kingdom, Austria, France, Germany, Italy, Russia, Australia, New Zealand, and we put together a long PowerPoint, and I asked the students to write informed wall text as if this was going to be an exhibit itself. And they did. And they also were able to look at posters that the Burns had acquired from the Imperial War Museum in London. These were reproductions, but they were really important to the course. And we wanted to juxtapose the propaganda posters with notes that illustrate the reality of the war, the reality of the conflict. And so the students went through the Burns, and with the help of the staff in the Burns Library, were able to identify primary sources, which were mostly letters, but also some diaries and some old photographs from people from the BC community that were actually involved in the war, that were out at or near the trenches during the Great War. They gained knowledge of how to do primary research. They were able to understand how history is written. As a historian myself, I work with primary sources all the time, and I talk to students about going to the archives and doing the work and developing a narrative from the resources that I'm looking at. And so what I was interested in doing was to teach the students how to find material, how to read secondary sources and become acquainted with a narrative of the First World War, and then look at primary sources and look at the personal experience of those that were in France or in Belgium during the Great War. And so they were tremendously excited, and the staff in the Burns were just fantastic. Amy and Kevin and Kathy were able to work together to gather material for them to take a look at and start digging through. And when they began to actually read through this material, one could sense the excitement, and it was just a fantastic teaching experience. And I think they learned a great deal.